Adam here from the Walser Automotive Group, and what I want to do today is take you on a test drive. So next to me here, I have the 2025 GMC Sierra 3500. We'll look at the interior, exterior, some of the trim level specifics, and we'll go for a spin around, see what it's like out on the road. Okay, so now we're behind the wheel of the 25 Sierra 3500, and this is going to be the Denali trim. So this is the crew cab with the four-wheel drive. There's a ton of different ways to load up these HD trucks, so it can get a little bit confusing. So we'll try to break down some of the details of each, maybe some of the capacities of these trucks as well. But just know this is a lot of truck. There's so much cool stuff in these new 25s. So let's start with the engine options. Now you're gonna have a gas and a diesel option. There's a 6.6 liter V8. That's gonna give you about 401 horsepower. And then that's gonna be paired to a 10-speed automatic. Now this particular one that we have here today, maybe some could say a little more desirable. This is a 6.6 liter turbo diesel. So this one's gonna bump up to 445 horsepower. And that's also gonna have the 10-speed automatic transmission. Now that's an Allison transmission. They've been using it a long time. It's a really great way to push these trucks along, and they also provide a ton of torque. Now, towing capacity, if you want the absolute strongest truck, there's a few different ways to look at that. So the 3500 HD, that would be the diesel engine, regular cab, rear wheel drive. That one's going to give you over 30,000 pounds of towing capacity. That can change a little bit whether you're looking at the gooseneck, which that would be that configuration, or if you're looking at the standard hitch. So the drop hitch, that capacity is going to be a little bit different. That's going to go down to about 22,500 pounds when looking at the regular hitch 3500 with the regular cab and the rear wheel drive. Now this four-wheel drive with the crew cab isn't going to quite tow as much, so if you're looking for that max capacity, that would be something to consider there. Now if we're also talking about payload on these trucks, the diesel payload maxes out at about 4,162 pounds. Now there is a few different ways to top that out to about 7,290 pounds, so if you need that extra payload, there is a way to do that. So kind of wrapping it up, maximum towing capacity is going to be around 20,000 pounds when looking at the standard hitch. If you opt for the fifth wheel, you're going over 31,000 pounds that way. So if you got a larger trailer, you're hauling some equipment around, that would be the one to consider there. Now, with some of the confusing stuff out of the way, what's new for 2025? So the adaptive cruise control system, as well as the trailering assist, which was only on the AT4X previously, and the Denali Ultimate trim is now going to come standard on the AT4 as well as on this Denali. So that's pretty cool. They've also added a trailer brake controller as standard across the board for 2025. So if you're looking at the base model or the SLE, anything like that, that's going to have the brake controller in there, which is pretty cool. And then front and rear parking assist will be available on the Pro models as well as the SLE trims as part of that Pro Safety Plus package, I think it was. So that kind of rounds out the bigger kind of changes for the 2025 model. Okay, so now that we've got all that out of the way, let's drop this thing and drive. We'll go for a spin around, touch on some more of the features. So this one still keeps the column shifter. If you've spent any times in the regular Sierra 1500s, you'll know some of them keep the shifter down below here as the kind of cup holder space, but I like that it still gives you plenty of storage room in here, and I kind of like the old school feel of just knocking it into gear. Like I said, this one does get the Allison transmission with the 10-speed, and it is so good out on the road. I love the feel of this truck. When you're behind the wheel, you gotta make sure you're comfortable because this is a pretty big machine you're moving around, but for the most part, comfort also comes in terms of a luxury when we're looking at the Denali trim. So starting on the exterior, this one is going to be the white, kind of sort of like has a pearl to it out here in the sunlight today. Does look really good. There's a new wheel design as well, which looks killer. I would have guessed these were aftermarket wheels. I love that it's got a little bit more of kind of a meatier aggressive setup on it. It just works very well with these 3500s. So from there, this one will get the fixed running boards. We actually had an AT4X 2500 with us today as well. That one would get the running boards that are going to be power, that will lower it down. Obviously, if you're doing some off-roading, you're going to want those to tuck up out of the way. This one, you didn't need it, so those are going to be fixed on the side there. And then you do get some steps as well, which is pretty convenient around the truck. So it's going to be kind of the side step just located behind the cab there, and then in the back there's also going to be the steps. So if you're trying to reach something into the bed, obviously this is a gigantic truck, you can't just reach in and grab everything, so having that little step does help. One other thing that's really cool is the multi-pro tailgate. That is something if you haven't had before, it's almost impossible to give that back up. So there's a double thing to fold. Basically, you're just pushing both buttons on the back there. It'll kick one part down, then the next, a little step comes out. There's even a little handle, which makes it pretty simple for kind of jumping in and out of the truck. If you get a little bit older, having that handle there definitely helps you out. Take a little bit of pressure off the knees. But then also you can kind of use it to set it up for holding like 2x4s or wood. If you don't want, you can flip that little piece up, keep things from sliding out of the truck if you have the tailgate down. There's just a ton of usable ways to have that set up. Then in the back, like I said, there's quite a few different payload options, but the bed is really cool. We've got LED bed lighting, spray and bed liners with some. You can even do the plug-in for that. I think it's an AC plug back there. So kind of if you're on the job site, campsite, whatever you might be doing, that's pretty convenient to have that. And then like I said, you can also set these up for the gooseneck. So if you got the big trailer you're towing around, or if you got the camper set up for the gooseneck, over 30,000 pounds of towing capability is pretty cool. Then that would be kind of a prep package for the gooseneck as well. So like I said, there's a lot of stuff, so it can get a little confusing. But what's not confusing is how comfortable it is inside this truck. So there is the Denali Ultimate, the AT4X. They're all going to be kind of similar in what they offer. The Denali kind of starting at the bottom of that list of kind of luxury HD pickups. So in the second row, there's a ton of room back there. Those seats are going to be heated in the Denali, so if you got the kiddos back there, you're bringing people with you. There's also going to be vents, whether it's for the kids or for the dogs. And there's also going to be USB charging throughout the entire truck. So all your devices, there's even a household plug in here. So if you got the laptop, job site, whatever you might be doing, that is pretty nice to have that as well. But in the back, there's a little storage. Those seats can flip up as well. So if you want to put something in, there's a little storage, keeping maybe some tow straps or any other kind of stuff hidden out of sight under the seat is pretty convenient. Those you basically just pull, flip them down, simple as that. Into the driver's seat. So this is where you want to be. Now obviously the 25 and 3500s do ride a little bit stiffer on the road just because of the way they're set up for what they're capable of, but not too much worse or better than a kind of 1500. Yes, it is a little bit more bouncy when you're on the road, but when you have all this comfort and luxury, it definitely kind of makes it pretty nice to live with day to day. So the Denali we have here is going to have the leather wrapped steering wheel. That's going to be heated right here on the steering wheel. And then there's lots of different buttons, whether that's for some of your safety stuff or just your radio controls. And I also paired my phone when I hopped in with Apple CarPlay. So you've got Android Auto, Apple CarPlay that's going to be wireless. And then right down here, just basically take your phone in and out at any time, but it's going to have wireless charging, which is really nice to keep it just charged up, and then you're not messing with it when you get that CarPlay or Android Auto. Now the infotainment screen, it's pretty cool in here. It gives you a lot of stuff. Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant is built in, which if you haven't used that before, it is way cool. I can say Walser, Buick, GMC in Bloomington. It will pull up the directions right away. It's actually really clear too. I mumble most of the time when I'm not on camera, so when it can understand me and pick it up and then give me turn-by-turn directions without having to ever pick up my phone, I love how safe and easy that is to use pretty much day to day. Then there's a whole bunch of other stuff built into there. The backup camera is super cool. The tow kind of set up for everything. You can set your own trailer, have a guest trailer set up in there. There's so much going on, but it's not overcomplicated, if that makes sense. Really kind of figured out what they needed to get through to people in there, and it's just pretty much all that and nothing else. Then on the other side, if you spend any time in a GMC, the digital gauge cluster is pretty much the same as it's been for a few years, giving you all your pertinent information, trip computer stuff, your audio settings you can go through or kind of check on your phone. And then, like I said, the voice controls just makes it simple when you're on the move. But then on the side over here, you've got some drive selects. So with the diesel, you can go between an off-road and a normal mode, and then you can click it into the tow mode as well. And then, like I said, this one is the 4x4. So you got the 4-wheel drive select on the fly over there. You can leave it in auto, which is nice, that you can just kind of set it that way, or put it in 2 high if you know it's going to be a nice 75-degree sunny day like we've got today. Now the mirrors in here are pretty sweet. So it's got blind spot monitoring, emergency braking, you've got adaptive cruise control, but the mirrors actually kind of fold in or out really easy. And then you can even click the button, their power kind of slide you out. So if you got a larger trailer or something you can't quite see around, that's pretty cool there as well. Now, there's a few other buttons inside, so there's a dual zone climate control. These seats are so good. They're power on my side with lumbar, heated, they're ventilated as well, which is really nice to tackle pretty much any part of the Midwest season you're gonna be facing. And then that dual zone climate control is also really convenient. So you and your passenger can set that up, which is pretty cool. And then there's just a few buttons along here. The exhaust brake, some of your safety settings you can quick go through. If you don't wanna go through the infotainment screen to look at all that stuff, you can basically shut off the lane departure warning system down here, the parking sensors. So if you're towing something, moving something, don't want those. And then there's also kind of the buckle to drive feature. So if you don't want that on, you can click that, shut that off. So lots of ways to make it pretty easy to have what you want or to shut off quickly what you don't. And then, like I said, more USB, cup holders are nice on the side here. I mean, there's just a lot to like about this truck. I wish I had something I could tow to kind of put it through its paces and see, but you know, with this much power and torque and this great transmission, I mean, these trucks have been pretty kind of bulletproof and reliable for a long time. And I think the 25, especially the Denali, if you're someone who wants luxury, comfort, I mean, this is going to give you all of that. And then all the capability to really have this much towing capacity or anything else you might need it for. I think if you're shopping Ford, Chevy, any of these full-size trucks or these HD trucks, I think this one is absolutely one to add to the list. Come out, take for a spin, and see what you think. Now that was just a quick look and drive at the 2025 Sierra 3500. Now if you have any other questions or you'd like to schedule a test drive, you can visit us online at walser.com or stop by any one of our Buick GMC locations. We'd be more than happy to help. Thanks again for watching.